Seattle homeless explosion, 2025. You have no idea how bad it really is. By StreetSide Witness. It's 4:17 a.m. in Seattle. The city hums like a tired engine. A bus sighs, a gull cries, and under the viaduct, a flashlight beam lands on a nylon tent beaded with rain. I count the breaths I can see in the air. Human, warm, alive. People, not problems. On a single night in America, 771,480 people are homeless, the highest number ever recorded. That's about 23 people for every 10,000 of us. In Washington state alone, it's 31,554, half of them unsheltered. In Seattle, out on King County, the most recent count estimates 16,868 people experiencing homelessness, 9,692 unsheltered, and 7,058 sheltered. I'm here to take you past the headlines, to listen, to walk row by row of tents and RVs, shelters and safe havens, and the quiet places you don't see on your commute. We'll talk causes, we'll talk consequences, we'll talk what works and what doesn't. Before we begin, smash that like, subscribe, and join the journey. Not because algorithms demand it, but because the people living outside deserve to be seen, heard, and counted. If this were your block, your family, your friend, what would you want the rest of us to do? Night count, daylight. At dawn, the numbers feel heavier because the city is quiet enough to hear them. Seattle or King County's 16,868 people without homes reflect a 26% rise since 2022. 58% are unsheltered, on sidewalks, in cars, under bridges, 9,692 neighbors outside versus 7,058 indoors. Nationwide, homelessness jumped 18% year over year, the sharpest increase on record. It's not just us, it's everywhere. Here's the geography inside the statistic. Seattle Metro accounts for 9,440 people, 4,585 unsheltered, and 4,855 sheltered. South King County counts 3,182, 2,059 unsheltered. East King County has 1,910, 1,114 unsheltered. North King County is small but stark, 1,900 total, with 91% unsheltered. Washington's statewide total, 31,554, puts it third in the nation behind California and New York. 51.4% are unsheltered. And chronic homelessness? Washington has 49% of individuals experiencing chronic patterns of homelessness, the highest rate in the country. Counts are not just clipboards and flashlights. They are rules, definitions, and margins of error. The January count captures a single night. It misses the family doubled up in a cousin's living room and the worker drifting between motels. Volunteers learn routes. They tally tents, cars, and RVs, then verify with surveys. In King County, an estimated 26.5% of unsheltered people live in vehicles, RVs, vans, sedans, with fogged windows. The numbers bend toward people when we hold them long enough. A bar on a chart becomes the woman who guards her tote of documents at night. A percentage becomes the man who can't risk a curfew that conflicts with his graveyard shift. Data shows scale, lives show texture. Both matter. We also need to see the system behind the count. Sheltered totals depend on open beds that night and who can meet requirements. Unsheltered totals depend on whether we can find you under a freeway or behind a loading dock. And the geography matters. Services cluster downtown, people disperse to the edges when encampments are cleared, which can push counts outward. When a number is this large, do we feel it or do we shut down? And if we shut down, who carries the weight we set down? Kira, barista, 27, Seattle, lost her roommate after a rent hike, couch surfed, then the couches ran out. It's her car now, a hatchback with steamed windows and a cracked phone charger. She still works mornings. She still smiles at customers. The price of shelter. People ask for a simple cause. There isn't one, but one pressure keeps showing up. Housing costs. Nationally, the shortage of affordable rental homes is 7.3 million, for extremely low-income renters. Rents didn't blink when wages stagnated. Between 2020 and 2024, median rent rose 18% nationwide. Here in the Seattle metro, you need roughly $91,000 a year to afford typical rent under the 30% rule. When rent rises faster than wages, more people fall. The national count reflects that. 771,480 people in January 2024, driven heavily by families. Family homelessness surged 39% in a single year. The equation is brutal and boring. The bill is due, the paycheck is short, and 1 month becomes 2. Add a medical bill, a car repair, a rent hike, or a partner leaving, and your margin evaporates. Policy sets the slope of that fall. Seattle adopted a large employer payroll tax in 2020 to fund housing and homelessness. But in the 2025-26 budget, the city diverted $287 million in 2025 and $223 million in 2026. 2026 of that tax to plug general fund gaps. Regionally, the Homelessness Authority called for $25.5 billion over 5 years to right-size the response. Those dollars never materialized. Wages matter too. A full-time service job often cannot meet a $91,000 threshold. Even 2 such jobs struggle once childcare and transit enter the budget. In that gap, people make impossible choices: move far from work, accept an unsafe roommate, skip a utility bill, or leave housing entirely. Eviction filings magnify the risk when late fees stack and court dates accelerate displacement. Zoning and production shape the future price. We can argue ideology all day, but the math is stubborn. You can't rent what was never built, and you can't keep a home that costs more than your paycheck. Inclusionary zoning, vouchers, supportive housing, shallow subsidies, all are tools with different timelines. Here's where policy meets a front seat. Tony was a carpenter. A fall from a ladder cost him his job and his shoulder. Short-term disability ended, rent did not. He moved into an RV, then the RV broke. Now it's a tent behind the auto mall, and he carries a drill bit on a chain like a talisman. If rent becomes a tide, what happens to people who can't swim that fast? The fix won't be singular. It's a bundle. Income supports to stop inflow, vouchers to bridge the rent gap, prevention funds to catch missed payments, and rapid pathways to units that actually exist. Otherwise, we are bailing a sinking boat with a thimble, earnest, wet, and still sinking. Edges of survival. A day outside is a series of trades. Do I guard my pack or go to the clinic? Do I risk a ticket to ride the bus to a shower? If I sleep now, will my shoes still be here when I wake? Morning starts with triage, socks, or breakfast. Charge a phone or keep it hidden. The math is personal. In 2024, 51% of unsheltered people countywide reported a disability, physical, cognitive, or other. 34% reported a serious mental illness. Among people experiencing chronic homelessness, 63% report substance use disorder and 46% serious mental illness. If you're outside, your timeline is not your own. Clinics open at 9, check-ins are at 4. Curfews hit at 7 or 8. Miss one window and you sleep cold. There's no margin for a late bus. There's no quiet place to fill out an application. If you lose your ID, replacing it can take weeks you don't have. Add the overdose crisis. King County recorded more than 1,000 fentanyl-involved deaths in 2023. Preliminary 2024 data suggests a 22% decline, but totals remain devastating. Outreach teams carry Narcan. People outside carry it too. I watch a woman tape a vial to her tent pole, reachable in one motion. Harm reduction is not abstract here. It's a neighbor waking a neighbor. Even when help is offered, the fit matters. In some quarters, the city extended 1,482 shelter offers. 337 were accepted and became referrals. Q in 2025, about 23%. Why so few? Curfews conflict with night shifts. Couples can't stay together. Pets are barred. Programs are far from work, school, or clinics. Some require sobriety on day one. Barriers are real, not excuses. People adapt anyway. They form micro-communities. They watch each other's pets. They share a power strip at a coffee shop and guard the table. A no-cook pantry emerges. Instant noodles, peanut butter, trail mix, tuna. Someone keeps a digital calendar for clinic days, court dates, and outreach visits. Trust becomes a survival tool, the way a multi-tool lives on a carabiner. Not everything is visible. Pain management becomes rationed. Sleep becomes a moving target. 2 hours here, 3 there. Rain changes everything. Socks, hypothermia risk, trench foot. Sun changes things too. Heat stroke, dehydration, no shade. The body pays the bill the budget can't cover. If the only open bed is miles from your job, your partner, and your dog, would you take it? Or would you take your chances where you know the bus lines and the faces? May, caregiver, 39, Kent. She sleeps in a minivan with her teen. School is non-negotiable. The only shelter with space is 2 bus transfers away and separates families by gender. She chooses the van, the school bell, and a steel thermos of instant noodles. Trust, Frayed, and Mending. Trust is a currency. People living outside weigh broken promises against new ones. Outreach teams say, "Come in." But people remember being told to move along at dawn. Neighbors ask for resolution and worry it means displacement, not help. The system keeps score in beds and placements. People outside keep score in kept appointments and names remembered. Encampment fires haunt the headlines. In the third quarter of 2024, the Seattle Fire Department reported 202 fires connected to tent RV encampments, down 37% from the same period in 2023, though up from the second quarter. The narrative becomes danger, but the fuller story is risk plus scarcity. Heaters, candles, propane, wet gear, and long nights. Clearing a site without offering a fit can shift the hazard, not solve it. Community safety must include the safety of people outside. Black, African American, or African residents are 32% of people experiencing homelessness nationwide, but only 12% of the U.S. population. Disparities rooted in redlining, wage gaps, and bias. In King County, community interviews found causes clustered around job loss, rent increases, and eviction. Stigma says bad choices. Data says bad options. Trust builds where promises stick. Clinicians who return on the same day each week. Outreach that can actually offer a placement, not just a referral. Shelters that allow pets and partners. Staff who safeguard belongings. Predictable rules communicated clearly. We've seen it. Acceptance rises when the design fits the life. Couples can stay together, pets can come inside, lockers protect documents, curfews flex for late shifts. Trust also flows between housed and unhoused neighbors. When business owners know an outreach worker by name, they call earlier and de-escalate more. When residents understand how shelter referrals work, rumors cool. When people outside see city teams arrive with clinicians and storage bins, not just garbage bags, they exhale. Small changes compound. A familiar face, a promised ride that shows, a key that turns. A text from a case manager lands, "I'll be there at 10. At 10:20, she's there. That's how trust grows. 10 minutes late, but still there. That's the difference between a closed door and a second try tomorrow. What would it take for you to hand your backpack, your life, to a stranger at the shelter door? A promise, or a promise kept 3 times in a row? Dante, veteran, 61, white center. He keeps his discharge papers in a Ziploc. Outreach calls him by name now. He jokes more. A VA caseworker found him a spot with his dog. That one detail, the dog, made no into yes. Body and brain, not either or. Let's say this clearly. Addiction and mental illness do not cause homelessness on their own. High housing costs and poverty are the accelerants. Behavioral health challenges can both precede and result from life outside. Nationally, affordable housing is the core driver. 7.3 million affordable homes short. In King County's unsheltered count, 34% reported serious mental illness, and more than half reported any disability. Among people experiencing chronic homelessness, 63% reported substance use disorder. At the same time, the county has only one 46-bed crisis facility in operation. No walk-in behavioral health urgent care exists countywide. Provisional data showed overdose deaths fell about 22% in King County from 2023 to 2024, but still exceeded 1,000 in 2023, and fentanyl remains dominant. Harm reduction, Narcan distribution, safe use supplies, outreach saves lives. Supportive housing with on-site services reduces ER visits and stabilizes care. If a clinic lived at your front door, how many crises would never happen? Rosa, line cook, 33, Ballard. The tent feels smaller since she stopped using. A peer counselor meets her on Thursdays. She circles that day on a calendar page torn from a free paper and kept dry in a plastic sleeve. Small wins stack. The system at the breaking point. The homelessness response system is a web: outreach, emergency shelter, transitional housing, rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing. But today, the math doesn't work. On the January 2024 count night, Seattle-King County had 7,947 shelter beds available and 16,750 people experiencing homelessness, a ratio of 2.1 people per bed. In Seattle Metro, there were 5,003 beds and 9,440 people, about 1.9 people per bed. Nationally, even as shelter capacity grew, demand outpaced supply. Sheltered homelessness rose 25% in 2024, faster than unsheltered growth 6.9%, a sign that more people are entering systems, not fewer. Programs face a staffing crisis. Units sit idle for lack of case managers. Meanwhile, Washington recorded 11,986 individuals experiencing chronic homelessness, second only to California. Chronic homelessness requires housing with services, longer leases, patient timelines. When placements fail, people churn back to the street. If we opened 100 beds tomorrow without staff, did we solve anything? Aaliyah, outreach worker, 29. Skyway. Her notebook is a map of first names and bus routes. She carries dog treats and extra socks. Most days, she has more people to help than hours to help them. She calls 3 shelters at lunch. No co-ed, no pets. Curfew at 7. She tries again. Budgets, politics, and the peril of half measures. Budgets are moral documents. Seattle and King County fund the Regional Homelessness Authority, which coordinates most services. In 2023, KCRHA cited approximately $253 million in total funding flowing through the system that year, still far short of needs. In May 2024, as counts rose, regional leaders cut $21 million from the 2025 homelessness budget, potentially reducing hundreds of beds and prevention slots. One-time COVID-era relief expanded capacity, but those dollars sunset. HUD's 2024 report shows national systems stretch thin. The total was 771,480, a record. Locally, the crisis care tax aims to build new mental health capacity. Today, we have one 46-bed crisis facility and 0 walk-in behavioral health urgent care centers. Policy design matters down to the rule. Allow pets, allow partners, reduce barriers. In the first quarter of 2025, the city made 1,482 shelter offers. 337 became referrals. Changing the offer, near home, with pets, storage, later curfew, can swing acceptance materially. Are we measuring success by press conference or by who's asleep indoors tonight? Malik, council aide, 31, Seattle. He's new, earnest, and learning fast. His inbox fills with complaints and pleas. He pushes an amendment for pet-friendly shelter funding and gets 50 angry emails about barking. He keeps going. Myths we carry, people we miss. Myth: everyone came from somewhere else. Reality is nuanced. In sub-regional surveys, many people reported their last stable residence was inside King County, like 55% in South King County reporting they previously lived in the same sub-region. Others cited Seattle or elsewhere in Washington. Some did move for work, family, or to escape violence. Human beings migrate. Poverty follows opportunity and loss. Myth: it's mostly addiction. Reality: housing cost and income gaps drive inflow. Nationally, rents climbed 18% from 2020 to to 2024. The affordable housing gap is 7.3 million homes. Behavioral health conditions are real and serious. 34% SMI among unsheltered locally, 63% SUD among chronically homeless, but they intersect with housing scarcity and trauma. Myth: services are overflowing with cash. Reality: one-time funds are expiring. Seattle reallocated $287 million in 2025 Jumpstart dollars away from housing and homelessness priorities to patch the general fund. Stigma thrives where stories are absent. People outside are students, caregivers, veterans. 8.2% of unsheltered in King County identify as veterans. Families rose sharply nationwide, plus 39% in a year, often for the most boring reason of all: the rent is due. If your first story about someone is a stereotype, how many facts does it take to set it right? Sky student, 19, Georgetown. They're finishing community college from a shelter bunk. The Wi-Fi is spotty, the goal is not. A transfer to UW, a future that doesn't involve a storage tote for a dresser. Signals of progress. There are green shoots. Acceptance rises when low-barrier, clean, safe spaces offer personal space and stay close to people's communities. Preferences the survey recorded repeatedly. When shelter programs pilot pet-friendly policies when couples aren't split, when there's a locker, a mail slot, a charging station, uptake moves. Permanent supportive housing remains a proven intervention. It pairs a lease with services. National inventories show PSH beds increased to roughly 397,241 by 2024. But supply lags need. Meanwhile, harm reduction, Narcan distribution, fentanyl test strips meets people where they are. The county's provisional overdose decline of about 22% in 2024 hints at impact when combined with outreach and treatment access. City teams cleaned about 4,200 sites in Q2 2024 and removed about 866,000 pounds of debris while working to reduce hazards like propane tanks. Encampment fires fell 35% that quarter compared to Q1. The trend line isn't straight, but direction matters. What if success isn't one big victory, but 1,000 small frictions made easier? Jorge, peer navigator, 44 downtown. Once outside himself, he now carries a clipboard and a kindness that lands. He translates bureaucracy into steps: ID, clinic, intake, ride. He knows which door guard will let a dog in if it's raining hard. The next 2 winters. This story doesn't end tonight. The 2025 count will come in, and I fear it will show what your eyes already know. We are not keeping pace. Washington's chronic homelessness rate, 49% among individuals, won't shift without housing plus services. King County has one 46-bed crisis facility today. The levy promises more, but buildings and workforces take years. So, what do we do, concretely? We fund what works and fix what doesn't. We scale permanent supportive housing, and we right-size shelter to match need. Remember, 2.1 people per bed countywide as of the last count. We align offers with reality: pets, partners, lockers, later curfews, nearer locations, because 337 accepts out of 1,482 offers is a signal, not a shrug. We keep harm reduction supplies in the field, because a life saved is a chance for housing tomorrow. We bring crisis care to the front door, not miles away. We also protect the money. The difference between a headline and a home is often a budget line. If you live here, call your council members. Ask how Jumpstart dollars are being used this year. Ask about the housing pipeline, not just shelter nights. If we built a city that only counts people once a year, how will we know when we've welcomed them home? I'll leave you with a scene: a shelter lobby at dusk, fluorescent lights humming, a bell ringing each time the door opens. A woman sets down a leash, signs a form, and takes a key. Her dog curls into a donut on a clean blanket. It's not the end of her story, it's one night inside. One night is not enough, it is also everything. If this film moved you, smash that like, share it, and join the journey. We'll keep reporting, keep listening, keep pushing for data and dignity in equal measure.